Meeting for the West Hartford Public Schools for December 15th, 2020. I would like to call this meeting to order at exactly 7 o'clock p.m. Cammie, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Aronson?
Present.
Dr. Chang?
Here.
Ms. Poland?
Here.
Dr. Steinberg? Oh, he's here.
Ari, you're on mute. Sorry, here.
Dr. Thomas Farquharson?
Here.
Ms. Wilcox?
Here.
Mr. Zdanowitz?
Here.
Student Representative Lillian Sweeney?
Here.
And Rochelle Yarabelli?
Here.
Thank you. Rochelle, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes.
Yep.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We do not have any revision to the agenda order, but we do have some people who have signed up to speak. So I'm going to call on them in the order in which they signed up. Do we have an Andrea Mesquita on the line? I don't actually see anyone who's called in, but just in the off chance, do we have Alex Lishnak? And Kara Isley. If not, we will move ahead and I'll try again at the end of the meeting. We do not have any unfinished business. We don't have any new business, so we'll move directly to staff communications and reports and to the superintendent's report. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Oh, you know what, Tom? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it looks like we did just have somebody join in, and I wonder if the board would be okay, since it's only 7:03, for me to go back to public communication and just make sure if that person wants to communicate with us. If you have just joined and you wish to address the board, give us a holler and I'll let you know how it works.
This is Kara Isley. I just joined.
Perfect. So you'll have 3 minutes to address the board, and I will give you a little heads up when you have about a minute left, if that's okay.
That's fine. Yeah, no problem.
And just for your own information, the board does not respond to any comments that you offer, but we will listen to them.
Okay, thanks. I just have a question that I'm going to pose to the board.
Okay, and so just to repeat though, we won't be able to answer your question, but we will listen to your question, and you may find that your question gets answered during the meeting. So if you could start with your name and address, and then I'll start the timer.
Okay, so just go now, or sorry, when?
Yep, right now is good.
Okay, so my name is Kara Isley. My address is 126 Haynes Road, obviously in West Hartford.
Great. You can proceed.
Okay, thank you. I just don't want to step out of line. So my question for the board here this evening, and thank you all for allowing us the opportunity to address you, is why is the West Hartford Public Schools current notification policy for children exposed to COVID in the classroom limited to only those who have had close exposure, as opposed to the entire class being notified, so that individual families within that classroom can make the appropriate decision to have their child tested or convert to a virtual learning model as opposed to, as a result of said exposure, whether it is considered a close contact or not? That's my question to the board this evening.
Okay, thank you. So I suspect, although we will not be able to answer that question directly, I suspect you may get your answer through the superintendent's report or one of the other reports this evening.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you for your time.
Now we'll move to superintendent's report.
Okay, thanks. Now I want to thank everybody for, as we close out 2020, this is the last meeting of 2020, and we've had more meetings virtually than we ever imagined that we would have. We've had to change on the fly how we do a lot of things, and I just appreciate the patience of everyone and really the support that the board has put forward towards education this year. There's a lot of places that have cut back. There's a lot of places that have said, well, we just can't meet people's needs this year, and the board has supported us and our mission unanimously, not political, bipartisan, completely whatever we can do to help the kids through this time, you have supported, and it is greatly appreciated in this most difficult year. So as we move to, we'll be virtual next week, and those 3 days, I appreciate parents, they've understood. I try to explain the reasoning for that, with the idea being that, we've had, as COVID has spread in the community, we'll see cases in school, as we've known, we'll see an increase. However, in terms of spread, people see the numbers on a dashboard and they think, well, there's 9 at that school. And what we can say and we can't share, and callers, ask about it, and I get questions about it. Why weren't we notified? Why weren't we told? The Department of Public Health has a very clear policy about notifications. It's not really even a school notification policy. It's just contact tracing and how it goes. And that goes towards what's your, more than 15 minutes within 6 feet proximity. And we went to the extreme from the start of the year. We didn't even look at it in terms of, 15 minutes. Well, it was 10 minutes and then we're reclocking. No, we went through the course of the day, and it's been it's one of the most important things that our teachers have done, and they've done so effectively, because we have had so many cases as we will have, and then you start tracking it back, and really the driver of those cases has been within families. So people will see 3 added in a school, and the most typical reason for that is multiple children in the same family that go to the same school. That's been really the driver behind this. And people will say, but there's 9 cases at Conard or 10 cases at Conard. Those have to be related. And I just remind people that Conard has, if you take staff and students and everything else, about 1,500 people that we're talking about. So 10 cases at a given time of a community of 1,500, we wouldn't bat an eye at in the state of Connecticut. That would be far lower than the rates that we see in most towns. But when it's in a school, I think sometimes because of our size, people think they must be related. And when we say they're not related, that's because we've done the contact tracing so we can identify all of those tie-ins. When we have trouble breaking apart, where is everybody? When we have trouble doing the contact tracing, when the volume is so large, what happens at last week in Bugby. If we want to isolate and try to understand, okay, where is the spread coming from? How many outstanding tests are there? That's when we'll take a pause. So we operate with the utmost caution, and with the idea being that that we want to make sure that we keep this from seeing blooms or clusters coming out of a school. I think that once we reached the numbers that we've seen from November to December, for the vast majority of cases throughout the state, you go through and you can directly link it to the family situation, where they were exposed. But there's going to be a couple situations that come up just by pure numbers where it's more difficult to directly say this is exactly where it came. And so that's happened, to a very small extent here over the past few weeks as our numbers have grown. but we haven't seen that cluster of 20 cases at a school or 10 cases at a school or a whole classroom where people got it. Whereas we have seen a family of 7 where everybody got it. So that is still a limited transmission. But as I said, the numbers of cases are certainly growing outside the community. And I will say, according to the state metrics, still the numbers of cases are larger over the past 3 weeks for students that were in remote learning than they were for students that were in school learning in the state of Connecticut. Those are just numbers. I don't have control over those numbers. That's what the state has reported. So we continue to talk to the state epidemiologist twice a week. We have meetings and talk to local superintendents. Most of the area superintendents are, certainly the Farmington Valley is joining our schedule for next week as we look at this and really contact tracing. Just again, the difficulty with contact tracing is you want to get that information out right away. And some people will say, why weren't we notified? I heard about a case this morning at 10. Well, we're doing the contact tracing during the day the moment we hear about it, whereas we can't report it out to the community until we get the okay from the West Hartford Bloomfield Health District that we're done with the contact tracing from that case. So that brings up the question of being in school for those 3 days before a vacation. And while we hope there's not mass travel or exodus, we do understand that there may be some people going to a house that they have out of state or something else. And the difficulty with getting a hold of people at the beginning of a vacation period when they might need to go into quarantine, those 3 days being virtual kind of removes that. And the community overall was very supportive of that. And I do appreciate that. There hasn't been a lot of negative feedback about that. And really, that's the other thing. For this school year, people have been tremendously understanding of all the difficulties that we have during the year. And I get, as a parent, wanting to know specifics. It's still the number one complaint we get is, why can't I know exactly who? And we can't because of privacy laws. And so we can't say who it was. We can't say whether you were next to somebody. We can't say if it was an adult, if it was a child. We can only say you've been identified as a possible close contact. Here's what you need to do. You need to go into a quarantine period. If you choose to get tested, this is how we support. And that's done by our nurses and the West Hartford Bloomfield Health District. And they have done just tremendous work, and I'm so thankful to them. Which brings us to kind of an old-fashioned question for this week. It certainly looks like the forecasts are coming together that Thursday looks like as likely a snow day as we've had in quite a while. I never make promises to people because of this, but once we know, this shapes up as the kind of one that would be an earlier call. And we've also told our principals to make sure our staff knows and our kids know, since next week is remote learning, to make sure they bring their stuff home. Just because while Friday is likely to be a school day, the pure volume of snow could have an impact on that. We've seen storms. Once you get over a foot of snow, things kind of become difficult. And if we're in that range, and there's blowing, and we've got people in quarantine that may be working at our schools for snow removal and everything else, that does bring up a question. Again, I expect to be in school, but people on Wednesday afternoon should be going home with materials that they need to be able to sign into class next week. And we're going to remind our staff and students of that in our local schools tomorrow. But I just want to put that out there so everybody understands that that is a chance, at least when we're talking about, if you're talking about 16 inches, that's a difficult task for snow removal in a community. And if we have people in quarantine that do that work around all of our schools, that can make it even more difficult. So with that, I'll leave it open to any questions you have for me. Oh, one more thing I should say, because I don't want people to get the wrong idea about absences. We anticipate absences, and I don't say that as a blame for teachers. We've had an increased number of staff that have had to go into quarantine, and it's just difficult to fill those positions, and the week right before vacation becomes exceedingly difficult. But I was on a call with other superintendents today, and a district one quarter than us had more absences today from their staff than we had in West Hartford. And I thank our teachers for their seriousness, their dedication, their work coming in safely and making sure that our kids have teachers in school when they can be. So it is greatly appreciated. So I just wanted to say thanks to all of them for their work during 2020 to keep our kids engaged and educated. So with that.
Thank you. Are there questions from board members? You can put a question mark in the chat box. Jason.
All right. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, great. First of all, Tom, thank you for that update and that report. So I wanted to ask you about testing, about COVID testing. But first, I want to say that how impressed I was with the school's response to a call for my own child for their class to be quarantined, and that was we got a call in the afternoon, and when I went to go pick up my daughter from school, everyone was outside, and there was a really clear kind of process to go through, and the nurses provided a lot of information, answered any questions we had, and I think for someone who hasn't gone through that before or known the precise sort of protocols or procedures that the individual school goes through, just to experience that and to go and find out how the school have executed that plan, was really impressed, and so just wanted to say thank you for all the work that's been going on, that I've experienced that firsthand, and seen that. So and a sort of follow-up to that is about COVID testing, and I know in the process of talking with other parents in the class, there's a kind of there are some questions that aren't really addressed in the quarantine procedures, because there isn't a call to have testing, but many parents feel the need to test, and so I'm wondering if you can provide some guidelines about when is it useful to test, what information, how should families treat that information, and then also I think that would also be a useful thing. It would be useful to hear your suggest. I don't know if you can suggest, as legally, but if there are any kinds of guidelines that you would give to families over the holidays about returning back to school in January. Really want to encourage everyone to really kind of think about making choices that can keep your family and your community safe. But there's the spread is such that if there are contacts, that you want to be able to deal with them in a responsible way. And so I'd like to just hear you talk a little bit about how families should think about testing in a quarantine, when there is a quarantine call or contact is made, and then also for the holiday return. Thanks.
Sure. No, it's something we get asked about a lot, and I'll let Andy jump in because he does most of the work with the West Hartford Bloomfield Health District about this. I think one of the things to remember is that we're not health professionals, so in terms of whether someone should go get a test or not, we can't really offer those guidelines. When people talk to our nurses or the health department, we do share that, and we share information. If people ask, is there any place available, we might give some of that information. But you're right, and I'm glad it was a good experience, but this is that kind of difficulty in the duality of trying to be a school system during a health issue and trying to bridge that gap for parents, but not overstep into what is the health piece. But Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, really nothing, a whole lot more to add there. But Jason, as you said, the parents are uncertain when we make that call, and our recommendation always to the parents via our nurses or via the health district is that we don't advise one way or another on testing. It really is a parent's decision on that. Currently, and it may change when the Department of Public Health in Connecticut, if they decide to adopt the changes from the CDC. But currently, testing is for peace of mind. It doesn't shorten a quarantine period. And so it really is each parent and each family has to make their own decisions on that. The difficulty that we're seeing in some cases is some of the lag time around testing still. And depending upon when, oftentimes parents will go and get an immediate test and then think they're okay, but understand that testing really is within a window, as the medical experts will tell you, and it has to be done within a certain window. If it's done too soon, you could have a false negative. If so, we just don't advise on that. We leave it up to the parents to talk to their to the pediatricians and to their own medical providers.
And I think your question about returning, I do greatly appreciate, because there is that feeling of somebody travels out of state and says, well, but I came back and I got my test, so we're all okay, we can come to school. Well, we have to follow the state guidelines. Again, we're not a police agency, an enforcement agency, and we do, we'll get calls this week about this family went to this place, what are you going to do about it? And I can't subpoena people's travel records. If we hear about something enough, we might ask the principal, could you give the people a call and just ask them and make sure they're being careful as they return. And again, the Department of Public Health could change their guidelines for what a quarantine looks like, but we're really kind of caught following their guidelines in this case. If somebody, we always say, talk to your pediatrician. If that's an issue for any family, we reach out through our nurses to make sure that they know the local areas and what the health clinics are that have testing available. So I hope that covers most of it.
Yes, thank you so much, guys.
Any other questions? That goes for Lily and Rachel as well. All right. Great. We will move on then to staff reports and board discussions, and we're going to have a presentation on the Connecticut State Seal of Biliteracy.
So I'll introduce this report, and if I may, and really this is the work. I'll turn it over very quickly to my colleagues on the call. This is the work and the joint effort of three excellent professionals. We have Jocelyn Tamburillo Noble, who is our department supervisor for world language. We have Megan Zingle, who is a department supervisor for world language. She is currently our interim high school assistant principal over at Hall High School. And we have Shalise Ross, who is our director of ESOL and bilingual education services here for the district. And it really is the effort, the motivation, and the dedication of these three professionals that has put West Hartford on the map with the Connecticut Seal of Biliteracy. This is we have had a significant kind of out of the gate effort with this, and have had a significant number of students earning the seal. And with that, I will turn it over to the three of them for their presentation.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us tonight. It's exciting for us to come and share some notable student achievements. You know, as we follow up the COVID discussions, this is a more fun and positive one for us to share. And I think that Jocelyn and Shalise would probably agree with me that it feels like a lifetime ago that we went through this with students. Because it was about a year ago, a little less than a year ago, that we tested all of these students, and we're bringing the report to you. But we have to thank Superintendent Moore and Mr. Vicinas for really supporting us in this too. You know, we brought this idea a few years ago, you know, to Tom and said we'd like to do this, and it took a couple of years for us to get it off the ground. And then this past year, early 2020 was when we were first able to present it to students, and we didn't really know what to expect when we started this. And the end achievements of our students were really exciting, and that's what we're here to share with you tonight. So we have a couple of slides just to lead us through the discussion. I think you all got the report from Paul. And we're just going to share the major bullet points of that with you. So, let's see. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So I think Jocelyn has the first information to share with you.
Yeah, so thank you for having us this evening to share about the Connecticut Seal of Biliteracy. We are truly excited that West Hartford Public Schools has, you know, implemented this last year, and really is a great opportunity for students to demonstrate their skills. I also want to thank, in addition to the faculty in West Hartford Public Schools, I especially want to thank World Language and TESOL teachers, because World Language instruction begins at the pre-K level, and it really is the work of every teacher at every grade level that makes this possible and provided the results that we had in West Hartford Public Schools, which we're really proud of them and our students especially. So the Connecticut Seal of Biliteracy recognizes the value of a student's academic efforts and effort in becoming bilingual, biliterate. It prepares students for a 21st century to be global citizens in a multicultural and multilingual world. So we're really excited that the seal acknowledges the mastery of 2 or more languages. We had multiple students that received it in 2 or more. And it recognizes the assets of our students that bring a language with them, who are emergent bilinguals, and that they are able to not only demonstrate proficiency in their native language, but also at times a language that we teach. So the seal measures a student's ability to use a language in real-world purposes. So to attain the seal, students must obtain and demonstrate a high level of proficiency. So it's an intermediate mid according to our test. They have to write compositions, essays, and they are put in real world situations and have to be able to interact with the language. So it's definitely a challenging test. Anybody who becomes certified as a world language teacher does take the same test to do that. So our students took the same test for that. And then in Connecticut, we have the Connecticut Seal and the Global Seal. So the Connecticut Seal is national recognition for their bilingual biliteracy skills, and the Global Seal is international recognition. So as students obtain either one, it shows their language and skill level, but it also on the seal, and a seal is placed on their diploma. It lets colleges know their language ability. It also, when they go for a job, an internship, a future career, this is a national examination that they take. So every Every job that they're applying for will have recognition for their linguistic abilities. There are so many benefits of having the seal, so encourages all students to pursue proficiency. And we also recognize the career and life and just being able to do some community service work, military work, whatever it is. This seal really says that students have a high level of proficiency and really can function in a multicultural world. So in addition to the seal being important, we recognize that this is recognized in all states, and it's recognized internationally. But for our students in West Hartford, it's especially important because it shows not only the value of the languages that we teach as formal instruction, but it also is the value of our students maintaining their native language. And it's a really positive piece for our emergent bilinguals in terms of being able to maintain their language, add another language, and really become global citizens.
So the 2020 testing that we did happened between January and February. It was completely voluntary, and we reached out to all graduating seniors, whether they were studying languages or not. And we surveyed them and asked if they were just interested. They would have to do the testing on their own time, but it was going to be free of charge to them. And ultimately, across both Hall and Conard, we got about 140 students that expressed interest in taking part in testing. We explained to them what the test consisted of, that there were 4 components to most tests. They would have to do a speaking, a reading, a writing, and a listening component. But there were no restrictions on the languages that we could test. Jocelyn and I laughed when we did our presentations at Hall and Conard because students would raise their hands and ask us about home languages and languages that, some of our less commonly spoken languages. And we said, we'll find a test for it. We'll find a test for it. So ultimately, we tested in 15 different languages, ranging from Spanish and French and Latin that we teach in the schools, all the way through Hindi and Nepali and Patois, which are some of the home languages spoken by our students. 126 students earned the Connecticut Seal of Biliteracy. So that meaning, as Jocelyn stated, they earned an intermediate mid on all 4 components of the assessment. And 110 of those 126 earned the global seal based on high enough scores to put them in the category for earning the global seal. We also, the AP test is recognized by the Seal of Biliteracy as an approved assessment as well. So we do have quite a few students in West Hartford who, as juniors, take AP language courses. So if last year as seniors, they had already taken the AP test as a junior and received a 3 or higher, they also earned the Seal of Biliteracy really without having done anything last year. So it was a nice bonus for them. And there were approximately 100 students who had earned the Seal of Biliteracy purely from the AP score that they had received as juniors. One notable achievement, we did have one Hall student that earned the Seal of Quad Literacy, I guess we would call it. Based on her, graduating, having met her English requirements, and then she tested in Spanish, which she was studying at Hall, and she tested also in Hindi and Nepali, which are languages that she spoke at home, and she earned that intermediate mid rating on all 3 of the language assessments, and then, as I said, earned her or was graduating having met her English requirements. So she received the seal, I guess we made it up, of Quad Literacy. Another notable achievement for us was that we were I believe we were the first, Jocelyn can confirm, to assess American Sign Language towards the Seal of Biliteracy. And our 2 ASL teachers, Kay Volpentesta and Mick Posner, put together the assessment for that based on the spoken language rubrics that we use, as well as the American Sign Language rubrics. And we had students for the first time earning the seal of biliteracy in American Sign Language as well. Guess we'll leave it up to discussion and questions, but I'm going to stop sharing my screen because you've all disappeared at this point.
Again, I'm just going to mention one piece is that we will be continuing to test students this year. Something notable that happened in the process is Megan and I visited all of the English classes across the district. We met with every student one-on-one and had conversations with them about the importance of being bilingual or multilingual. And we encouraged students, we worked with Shalise and encouraged students who spoke another language at home to try to test to see how they did. And the great success of the linguistic assets and the cultural assets that our students bring truly is such a gift to West Hartford. And the fact that they were able to test and show and demonstrate proficiency for a first year. This is the second district that I've worked with the Seal of Biliteracy on. For first year in West Hartford, these are just absolutely amazing results, and it's really the credit to the students and their hard work.
Jocelyn and I will joke, I think that, we call ourselves language geeks, as world language people. And it was so exciting for us to hear these students coming forth with their home languages that they wanted to test themselves in. And then to hear them, I was hearing languages during the testing that I had never heard before. And it was just really interesting to me to see some of these languages written. As many of the students, we couldn't even figure out how to type some of these languages, so they had to handwrite their assessments. And working with those students, Jocelyn as well, but I had students stay for hours after school because some of the tests in the languages that they were assessing just were that much longer because the languages, especially the written components, were that much more complex. And they stayed and they finished them. We spent some quality time after school with some of our students during that testing, but it was just wonderful. It was really exciting to see it happen and come together. Do you have questions for any of us?
Just before, I think one of the things, speaking to college admissions officers, in addition to colleges, this is a bright shining light, not just for any individual, but for the district. So this goes on our district profile now that this many students received the seal of biliteracy from Hull, from Conard. And, while there is always a anti-testing idea among some, this isn't testing for the sake of testing. This is are you qualified? This is a very important, rigorous imprimatur given that says you are biliterate. And that's a special thing for a kid, no matter their background, to be able to go forward knowing that and to talk to people and say, yes, I have the Connecticut Seal of Biliteracy, not just on college applications, but on job applications and in interviews and on resumes. This is impressive, and it does separate people out. So it's great, and it reaches across the spectrum of our types of students at our schools. So really great work, and just so glad they've brought this in.
Thank you. I know I have questions, but I want to put it out to other board members first. So if you have a question, put a question mark in the chat box. Amanda.
Hi, thank you so much for your presentation. I remember when you touched upon this sometime last year when we were learning about, I believe we were talking about graduation requirements, and it was so exciting to see this in process. And listening to you now and thinking about even in this year, how the kids have been able to continue on with this program, because I imagine that, the extra hurdles of continuity have been significant. So it's so exciting for our kids and for our whole community to have this as part of the school system. And as I was listening to you talk, I was thinking about how many times in my own work, as I've gone in and out of schools and other areas where they've been talking about the teacher pipeline or paraprofessional pipeline, and placing that value on particular languages for the homeschool communication. And I guess I'm just wondering how much, and I imagine you're already doing it to some extent, but moving forward, do you anticipate having a lot of time with the career counselors to help brainstorm some of the ways that the kids can use this for career purposes? So whether they're college bound or not, that language forward approach is really significant, whether it's in the business world or education world. Is that a part of the internal communication with your colleagues about how best to encourage kids to be thinking about that?
Yeah, so I know that, this is how Jocelyn and I work. We just talk over each other all the time. Sorry.
So in world language, I can tell you that we have the ongoing discussion about how languages open doors and opportunities. There are specific career pathways that are talked about in terms of world language and where you can use that. As we think about the mastery-based experience, the Seal of Biliteracy will be able to meet that. We have a specific vision of the graduate, and it specifically connects to college and career, and it also speaks to what certain languages, how to help the community, what are certain career paths. And then we also, in our curriculum, talk about what are some regional areas of where there are language needs. So our students know that, if they're studying Spanish, especially right now, that, there's a needs in hospitals, and they understand that their language will carry them there. If we're studying other languages, what are the regional, we need Nepali and Arabic and those languages as well. So our students understand, and we speak not only about the languages we instruct in West Hartford, but we also speak to various linguistic needs in our community.
Can I jump in right on that, Jocelyn? So speaking of languages, in our community, we have a wide diversity of language in West Hartford, which is one of the things that we are so very proud of. And our students who come in with a different language at home and are part of our ESOL program, they were noted in the presentation as ELs, English learners, who earned the seal. We regularly have conversations with students and parents, even as young as elementary school, encouraging parents to continue using their native language at home and to continue literacy work with their students and with their children, our students, in their native language, so that they can keep those skills. And I've had some conversations with middle schoolers, even just this year, about the power of bilingualism and for them as they move into careers, and just the necessity right now in the world. And I think a lot of our kids realize it on their own because they see what their parents are going through. They're immigrant parents, and they are often the translators for their parents. And I know a lot of them have said to me they want to go into care fields, I'll say, because they want to be able to use their language to help others like their parents. So they are wanting that already for themselves, knowing that their language will help them career-wise.
Lorna?
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation. Certainly very inspiring to hear the progress that has been had with this. And for myself in hearing this, what speaks volumes is when you were describing the different ways that they are assessed. The piece that stood out was how they're also assessed in terms of real life situations. And I think that really distinguishes kind of the book learning experience from the real life novel, thinking on your toes, which really can put to test those skill sets. And I think for individuals who may not have the opportunity to study abroad, this is a way of validating their learning experience and certainly showing how it is, how it can be put to good use. And I appreciate, Jalise, you describing the encouragement that you share with students in terms of the value of learning, well, that all of you, Jocelyn and Megan, have shared in terms of the value of the students learning this language, because I think it can be validating for a young person who may, English may not be their first language, or they may be bilingual, but up until this point in time, they were not recognized for that as a way of contributing and a way of getting validation for the skill sets. So thank you so much for this. Thank you for encouraging our students. I was pleasantly surprised to see patois on the list. I will say that, which I think makes sense considering that outside of New York and Florida, Connecticut has the highest population of Jamaicans outside of Jamaica. So another way of validating the strong presence. So thank you so much.
Jason.
Yes, again, just want to echo the praise and accolades for this work. I wanted to ask about how does our district's performance in this compare with others in the state, and then wondering, since this feels kind of like a pilot, in terms of like bringing this assessment into the fold. I'm wondering what your goals are for next year, and what kinds of things will you anticipate really being able to reach more students, or to expand the capacity to conduct the tests, because I think this is a really valuable thing, and I would love to see how much farther this program can go, and just seeing the way that these kinds of programs pay dividends to UConn students, firsthand, seeing places like the School of Nursing now has ASL tracks in the School of Nursing, and so there's real real consequences, as you all are saying. And then the third point is just asking, just if these opportunities were also given to the remote learners in high school, and hopefully we won't have to ask that anymore, but just curious if that was a part of your process. Yeah, so comparison with other districts, goals for the next year, and things that could improve that, and then just how you reached out to remote learners. Thanks.
I'll answer the easy one and let Jocelyn have the hard ones on that one. In terms of reaching out to students, everybody was in session when we did it at the time. Like I said, we did testing right in like mid-February. So we beat the shutdown at that time. The more fun part was there was planned at both graduations to have recognition of these students. So Jocelyn and I spent some time in our cars delivering actual seals to students and certificates to students in May and June. And they were handed out with diplomas and things. But I think Jocelyn's going to speak to testing this year. And what's nice about all of the tests that I will say the majority of tests that we administered, they were on computers. So students can do them and we can monitor them, because we did do a few once we got into quarantine, and we're able to monitor them as they take the assessment. But I'll let Jocelyn speak to the comparison data.
So the comparison data in terms of other district ranges in terms of just number of students, and also the number of heritages and native speakers. In terms of comparison data nationally, our native and heritage speakers, as well as our non-native and heritage speakers of the languages, outperform the national averages on every single section on reading, writing, speaking, and listening. We had enough data points in terms of Arabic speakers. So our native and heritage Arabic speakers outperform the national averages in reading, writing, speaking, and listening, as well as our Mandarin speakers. We also had enough of a pool of Japanese speakers. Our Spanish heritage and native speakers outperformed on those as well. So on national averages, we outperformed and across the board in all of the competencies, and understanding that, the different size pools, obviously. But, for the populations that we had native and heritage speaker data, we outperformed the national averages on all competencies across the board. In terms of this year, we have already set up structures to be able to monitor through different applications, to be able to monitor and proctor examinations. And for us, all of our students are our students. So we will, the reach out efforts that we will have for both in-person students as well as remote learners. We will ensure that all of our students get the information that they have. And as we visit all of the English classes this year, we will be visiting the remote classes as well as the classes that are hybrid in person. So we will ensure that everybody gets the information. And in terms of reach out for this, we have mechanisms that we built last year to make sure that people and students get the information.
And I think you had asked about continuity and moving forward with this as well. Our intention is to set this up so that it will lead students towards the mastery experience, one of the new graduation requirements, so that as freshmen, we have now a structure in place where students can say, I'd like to choose to earn the seal of biliteracy by my, in my junior year. And set them down a pathway for world language learning and dedication for a minimum of 3 years at the high school level. So that is, one of the structures that we were just putting in place this year, I believe, Jocelyn, right, with our freshman class. But we will continue to assess those upperclassmen as well, hopefully, this year and moving forward, so that everyone has the opportunity who would like it.
And our goal is to always grow our student populations and the opportunities for all of our learners. So we're really excited to see what next year brings in this as well.
It's terrific. Thank you.
Other questions by other board members? I have two questions. One is, did you find the same rate of interest at both Hall and Conard, or is there a difference between the two schools in this?
I think our numbers were almost exactly the same in terms of students volunteering. Conard had a higher number of students who earned the seal via the AP test as juniors. And that typically came from the Spanish-speaking population over there, and the number of heritage Spanish speakers who are advanced enough to take AP Spanish as juniors. But I think our actual testing numbers were almost exactly the same.
That's amazing. My other question is whether Dr. Haskins is involved in reaching out to some of the families through the parent groups that, Rosina, that you work with, to help share information about the value of this program.
Your question is timely because tomorrow we are facilitating a One Community collaborative comprised of about 13 parent-led organizations. And we will be doing some information sharing and asking for those families, those parents, to help us with outreach, just to ensure inclusion and representation and understanding of all of these initiatives and wonderful equity-focused efforts.
Great. And I'm sure a lot of us are looking forward to tomorrow evening's event as well. Thank you. Are there any other questions? If not, thank you so much for this presentation. It's very inspiring. We appreciate all of your work getting this up and running.
Thank you for the support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will move to the personnel report and Mr. Rick Ledwith.
Good evening, everyone. The personnel report can be found on pages 5 and 6 of your board packet. This month's report is a little more active than a typical December personnel report, as we've added 1 contracted teacher and 8 interim teachers. The silver lining with this type of activity is, as you know, we're always looking to diversify our teaching staff. And when we have any openings, and we're able to do that with this group here, as we've added 2 new teachers of color to our staff, which is building on a strong recruitment effort from this past summer. So that is really good news. Now, what makes this report interesting or different from most is the 5 mid-year retirements that we have. And on average, we usually have about 1 or 2 mid-year retirements. This year, due to the demands and stress of the pandemic, we have 5 presently. We have another one that we're adding for February that you'll see in next month's report. And then we have another teacher who's seriously considering retiring within the next month or 2 as well. So that would bring our number to 7, which is very, very unusual, albeit in a very unusual year. And this is not unlike what other districts are seeing. I'm talking to my colleagues around the state, and everybody is seeing this kind of activity, mid-year retirement, as well as some resignations halfway through the year. So we also wanted to give the board an update on our absences and substitute situation. And let me say the decision to go remote for next week and even this week's snowstorm for Thursday really could not come at a better time. This latest surge in positive cases throughout the state is having a significant impact on our staffing within each of our schools. As of today, we have over 60 staff members who are quarantining. We also have another dozen staff members who are out on EFMLA leave due to school districts that are closing in neighboring towns, and they have childcare issues because of those closings. And as the positive cases continue to increase, the number of substitutes that are picking up assignments decreases with that increase in the positivity rate, which isn't good. But through this, we have pulled together as a district to stay open when others around us have closed under similar circumstances, all to ensure that our students are getting the best education possible in the most challenging of times. How have we done that? As Tom mentioned in his report, it starts with our Board of Education, and your support has been exceptional and instrumental in helping us to get to where we are today. Then we have our principals, we have our assistant principals, we have our department supervisors who are teaching in our classrooms every day, covering absences. Our teachers, as Tom said, are going above and beyond each and every day, picking up extra coverages, extra duties, helping each other out in the buildings day in and day out, streaming in from home when they're sick or they're quarantining, ensuring that their students can continue their learning while we're in this state. Certainly our nurses, our TAs, our paras, our administrative support staff, our custodians, cafeteria workers, security officers, everyone is stepping up and helping to keep our students safe, our buildings clean, and most importantly, keeping our district operating, which has not been easy, as you know. It's been a tremendous team effort on behalf of all of our 1,500 employees, and we all have much to be very much proud of. But as you know, it has not been easy. In the meantime, we will continue to hire more substitutes, as we are now focusing on hiring college students who will be home for the extended break. So for our viewers at home, if you have a child who's home for the extended break and enjoys working with children, reach out to our Human Resources Department, and we'd be glad to meet with many folks as possible over the next couple of weeks, so that we're prepared to come back in January and have a more hopeful, if not more successful 2021, and start to put this pandemic in our rearview mirror. So that concludes my personnel report. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board had.
Great. Does anyone have any questions? Lorna?
Yes, Rick, thank you very much. Question more of a comment follow-up. I know that you mentioned that in terms of substitutes, recruitment has been expanded to include college students that are home. That's correct?
It is, yeah.
Okay. So with that, I just want to implore all of us, we know that it takes a village and all of us are in this together, and recognizing that college students are home and congregating with their family, but there may be a temptation to congregate with others. And going against not supporting certain DPH guidelines and rules and regulations. So hearing what you're sharing, Rick, just want to really implore all of us, college students especially, to please adhere to all guidelines and regulations, because if you are one who wants to volunteer in the school system, or rather substitute in the school system, we certainly want all children to be safe, you included, but please certainly want all children to be safe. So pardon me, Rick, just when you said that, I just wanted to slip that piece in there.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more, Lorna. And we have brought on some college students already, and we have that conversation with them as they're onboarding. They have to adhere to all of our policies, social distancing, certainly the checklists that all of our students and families have to answer, and our staff coming into work every day. We will do that with our subs as well. So keeping everybody safe.
Good. Thank you.
Amanda.
Hi, thank you. Rick, that was a very comprehensive and sobering report, and I appreciate you framing it as candidly as you can so that the community really does get a sense of how many different things that you're trying to balance and the district is trying to balance through this, especially right now. And I think it also illustrates just how much is going on with our teachers right now and how grateful we all are. And I hope that the community spends some time as they're, a lot of parents are thinking about little gifts or things they want to do for the teachers, but please thank them and reach out and express just that acknowledgement of what they're doing, because I think no matter what we can fathom that they're doing, if we multiply it by 100, we're probably getting just a sense of how hard this is. And to think that some of these people who have been with our district, looking down the list at, physical therapists, psychologists, teachers, these people have been with our district for a very long time. And that's hard not to also be able to acknowledge their work and to celebrate them the way that we probably would and would feel right for them too. So I'm sure I speak for everyone when we thank those people for that immense dedication to the district that they've had for so many years, and wishing them well and thanking them for everything that they've done. It's certainly not the way that we would want to send people off in retirement, and that's a sad thing. So it's certainly understandable, but I hope that they feel valued and appreciated, and that the community can be thinking about the lift that this full faculty and staff have been doing for our community and our administration through this.
Thank you so much, Amanda.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, if not, thank you very much.
Very good, thank you.
We will move on to routine matters, and the first item is the approval of the minutes. I am looking for a motion to approve the minutes from the regular Board of Education meeting of December 1st, 2020. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Ari Steinberg.
Thank you, Ari. And a second?
Second, Amanda Aronson.
Thank you, Amanda. Is there any discussion on the minutes? If not, I will try your minds. All those in favor of approving the minutes of the December 1st, 2020 board meeting, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Abstentions? And the ayes have it. Thank you. Moving on to information and reports and board members, communications and reports. Are there any reports from other boards and organizations? Okay. Any other information and discussions? All right, we'll move to non-staff communications and reports. We're cruising through tonight, people. And reports from student board representatives, and we'll start with Rochelle.
Okay, so despite the inherent challenges the pandemic poses, the Conard community has still been able to conduct a number of fundraising events to help support the community. Some of our more recent fundraisers include the Pajama Day run by Conard's National Honor Society. Last Thursday for the red cohort and tomorrow for the blue cohort. Students can wear their pajamas to school and can donate $1 to help support the Connecticut Children's Medical Center. The next sort of fundraiser is the Conard-thon, which is run by the senior class board. Essentially, participants will be biking, running, or walking in support of the West Hartford community and the senior class in a virtual manner. Between December 14th and the 23rd, the class board will be collecting pledges through the Conard Locker School store, and this will be supporting the Conard senior class and the West Hartford Food Pantry. Another recent fundraiser is being run by the Conard National Art Honor Society, who's been creating masks, jewelry, and ceramic bowls to raise money for the Mercy Housing and Shelter in Hartford. On December 9th, there was a Human Rights Day field trip event, and on also the Human Rights Day occasion, Voices of the World performed a song on Human Rights Day. They did a virtual choir presentation of an arrangement chorus called Sing Our Own Song. Lastly, a 2-question survey was sent to students asking on how teachers can improve their teaching methods in the classroom. Faculty has seen the results and will use these to help better the classroom experience. And I would like to thank the teachers, principals, administrators, and the board for their hard work and dedication in making the school year possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Lily.
So I know I said that the Unified Theater, at the last meeting, I said that the show would come out last Friday, but it actually came out last Wednesday. So Unified Theater released the recording of our 2020 show, which was fully virtual for the first time. The show's theme was friendship and kindness and consisted of skits, dances, and a sign language performance. It can be found on YouTube by searching Hall Unified Theater 2020, and I definitely think that it's worth the watch. Last night, in honor of the 8-year anniversary of the Sandy Hook shooting, Hall acting students participated in the playwriting competition, #Enough, Plays to End Gun Violence. This performance can also be found on YouTube, and it was live streamed last night. Congratulations to these students for being selected to partake in this event, and I want to thank you for using your talent to bring awareness to such an important cause. Finally, everyone at Hall is looking forward to winding down the year and beginning winter break. This break is definitely well-deserved, and the students are very, very appreciative of the staff who have helped us get through the challenges presented by 2020. So again, I just want to thank all the people at Hall for getting us through this school year and the end of last school year, because it's been so crazy.
Thank you. Mark, do you have a question for one of the students?
Not necessarily a question, more of a comment and a little of an alibi. I am still a member of Conard and Hall on Instagram and such, and I just want to give a shout out, because tis the season, for all those student athletes, a little close and dear to my heart, that have been signing to different colleges across the country, both Conard and Hall, and it's just amazing to see it every year, and it's just exciting for them, and I'm sure their families. So I just wanted to give them a little shout out for that.
Thank you for doing that. And I think I feel comfortable saying on behalf of the whole board, just a really big thank you to both of you, Lily and Rochelle, for keeping us informed so far this year. And we're looking forward to the second half of the year, hopefully having meetings in person, and hopefully things will get back to normal sometime soon, or normal-ish. Are there other questions or comments? All right. Future business, the announcement of future meeting dates. We do not have a regular board meeting at the beginning of January, but we will have a workshop for board members, and we'll be announcing that in the next day or so. Our next board meeting is Tuesday, January 19th. This is a regular Board of Education meeting, and also the presentation of the capital improvement plan, which will be at 7 o'clock and via Google Meets. And After that, the next meeting is Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021, where we will adopt the capital improvement plan, also at 7 o'clock and likely via Google Meets. Are there any requests for future agenda items? If not, oh wait, did I see somebody?
I can wait.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just wondering, and I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I guess I keep hearing from the community and even the caller tonight about like kind of that more health department medical piece of COVID testing, when to test. I didn't know if that was something, I know we had them present earlier, but I wonder if coming out of the holidays, if there's an opportunity to kind of bring someone who could kind of answer those specific questions for the community, because I do think there's still so much level of uncertainty about when to test, what's the 5-day window, and you know, I don't know how big our audience is, if there's another venue for that, but I just wonder if providing some education on all of that.
You know, we can do it 2 ways. We could certainly do that here. I think it may fit the bill to do that once we know more about vaccinations. If our schools are going to be a site of vaccinations, kind of to do a combination, as we'll be kind of straddling the world of testing with vaccines. So that's certainly something that could be appropriate as we move into the new year, depending on where we are and what the plan is, but certainly, yeah.
I mean, I think that's a great, you know, with the vaccine and such. I mean, I've been running into situations where people are not acting kind of socially responsible, and the rationale behind it is because, oh, well, my family and I had it in March, so, you know, I can have a party. And I'm like, we need some education about, yes, you can get COVID again. And so I would like to advocate that it's not really our role, and that's what I'm saying, like, but our public needs to be educated, because the things that I'm hearing that lead to irresponsible behavior is a little frightening to me going into the Christmas break. So.
Got it. Thank you. And Dr. Haskins, do you want to give a commercial for your event tomorrow? Is it open to the public?
So we have invited members of several of our parent-led organized community groups to join us for a One Community for Equity collaborative meeting. And it's an opportunity for them to just review kind of our purposes, why we're bringing them together, again, to just ensure in our equity-driven focused work that we have representation, that we hear voices that are commonly underrepresented and underserved, just to bring everybody into the loop about our equity-focused district priorities, and just to have a two-way feedback loop, and engage and build and strengthen partnerships with parents. So that's tomorrow night at 6 o'clock from 6 to 7:30. We have already over 60 people that have RSVP'd. And in going forward, we will have larger assemblies where we'll have listening and learning for the whole community. But right now, this group will serve as kind of a guiding coalition to help us reach out to all families.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. I don't believe we have any visitors on the line, but I will put it out there. Are there any visitors who've joined us and wish to address the board? If not, we don't have a need for an executive session this evening, so I will look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Lorna Thomas Farquharson.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas Farquharson. Is there a second?
Second, Mark Zdanowicz.
Thank you, Mark. And without objection, meeting is adjourned, 8:14 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Take care.